Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Fresh Set. I'm Sabrina,
And I'm Kevin.
and we are
We're
struggling
back.
apparently.
Already? No, it's not that well, yes, but nobody saw it. It's not on video.
We have okay, well, neither of us are wearing orange or papaya
I thought you were gonna
or
say pants.
or well,
No, we're both wearing
we're both
pants.
wearing Oh god, we're off to a great start.
Yeah.
But, we have big news. Even if you're not an F1 fan, you know that Lando Norris won his
Yeah, and
first F1 race.
if I didn't have 4 sleeping children in the house right now, I'd be screaming Lando's name at the top of my
Yeah.
lungs because that's what I felt like
Yeah,
doing all weekend.
all weekend or all day yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
But
No, really, all weekend. He had a great weekend. He only had he
it got
had
taken
1.
out.
Yes. Well, other than that, he got taken out, but, I mean, qualifying, he was
Yeah,
fastest in we'll get into
we'll get into
Well,
it.
yeah, we'll get into
Before we jump into the race weekend in Miami, it was the Miami Grand Prix, if you didn't know.
with
But
their ridiculous VIP prices for food.
we can also get into that.
Yeah.
But we have a couple of news items that we wanted to just kinda bring back up.
Start off
First
with, yeah.
one yeah,
Get
first
it out of
one,
the way.
let's Adrian Newey. Last week, we talked about the rumors that he might be leaving, his interest of leaving, and now
And it was official. I
it's
mean,
official.
he put in his resignation. He's done at the beginning of 2025, so just before the start of the
Yeah.
2025 season. I believe it's like January, early February, something like that was when he's gonna go.
Mhm.
So basically leading them into the 2025 season.
He's building
Um,
their car. That's
he's
all that
gonna
they
build
care
their
about.
car to start the season, and then basically, it's yours, take it
Yeah.
and figure it out because I'm
Yeah.
done. I
Yep,
guess he
basically.
wants all fingerprints off of the 2026 car.
Yep.
Nothing to do with that if he's gonna go somewhere else. And he's not sure what he wants to do. He
He
doesn't
knows what
know.
he wants to do.
I honestly I don't know. I could see him being just tired. I can see him taking a leave, a year, maybe probably not. But well, I mean, I could see him 6 months coming to a team after their summer break and kind of working on the 2026 car, maybe.
Starting the new car.
Um, just packing up all his plans for the 2026 season and
Yeah.
away in his under his jacket and walking over somewhere else across the paddock. But
Yeah.
yeah, but he was probably the most visible man all weekend.
And you never
Uh,
see him.
no, no, and he has gotten more coverage this weekend than I've seen any driver,
Yeah.
other than 2021 Max and Lewis.
Yeah.
Uh, he was every little movement he made, whether it was on a grid walk, he looked at another car, they were analyzing it. He shook hands with Piero Ferrari,
Yeah.
which he's probably done 1,000
Yeah.
friggin' times, but this time it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
they're here.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I did think I guess it's because he announced it,
yeah,
but they did he did like a thank you to the Red Bull team in the garage before the races.
yeah.
And thank you for the years that we've been together, which is a long time.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a few of those, and we'll have one at the end, and they're gonna do donuts for Adrian at the end of the season. But yeah, I guess it's confirmed. Ferrari seems to be the top contender,
Well, when you see Lewis grinning ear to ear, I mean,
giggling like a little
yeah, yeah,
child,
yeah.
like,
It
but
looks almost all but done.
yeah.
I mean, and you saw Fred how much he celebrated Lando's win. He looks like he
Yeah,
has no worries
he's
in the world.
he's just chill, like,
Yeah, he's
he's
just happy. I
chilling.
don't care if I got third.
Yeah,
We're set up for next year. It's
yeah.
fine. Yeah.
We're good. So, I mean, good for him. It's a long career, and I'm sure it's still gonna be longer and more money.
And yeah, and we're still gonna hear from him. It was much more under the microscope this weekend because he just
Yeah.
put in his resignation, but it's not the end of it. We're gonna hear this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Then the other little bit of news, another rumor, there's always rumors. It's like a high school. We have Logan. So leading up to this race, Logan Sargent, it was a rumor that this may be his last race for Williams, maybe.
Rumor fueled by information.
Yes. So not he, Williams approached the FIA to ask if was it Kimi
Yeah, Kimi
Antonelli? Yeah.
Antonelli, yeah, yeah. Mercedes, junior
Or
driver.
yeah, junior driver could be if they would make an exception for him to drive the F1 car. They
Yeah.
need the exception because he is only 17
He
and
would be like 17 and like
8 months.
200 days or something like
Yeah.
that. But basically just he would be the second youngest if it would go through
Yeah,
to drive an F1 car, behind Max Verstappen, who
yeah,
was 17 and like 150 days or something like that.
yeah. But the new
Yeah.
rules are they have to be 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they want the exception, and they want it for as soon as they want him in the car as soon as Imola. Again,
2 weeks
rumors.
from now. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it fuels the rumors. I
Yeah,
mean, Logan, I mean, for as much as Williams made of, Logan's our driver next year. I mean, they've gotten through just over not even a quarter, a third almost. No, sorry, fifth. What am I saying? It's 24 races this year. They've gotten through a fifth of the season, and
yeah,
they're already possibly looking to replace him.
yeah.
Um,
This guy's
which
been through hell the first
Yeah, yeah.
like
And then to to add insult to injury, possibly his last race, which I'm sure he already has an idea of what's going on, if it is that's what they're looking for. So he may or may not have a seat depending on
yeah.
if this request goes through. Um, but then he gets taken out in his home race, doesn't even get to finish it,
No.
um, for an issue that what we'll get into it, but wasn't even his fault.
No, and yeah.
We'll get into whose fault it was. 'Cause he was
Yeah,
a problem. He
the
was
problem. But yeah, so I mean, that's our 2 little pieces of
Yeah,
news for this week. Next week, we'll probably have some more news, more rumors coming for you.
I have a feeling it's gonna be a busy news week this week.
Yes, for sure,
Yeah.
now that Lando is sober. Um,
I can't wait to see
but
his face tomorrow.
yeah. But, before we jump into the weekend, I just have to say, last weekend, we talked about Newey. We did our draft. You picked Lando as your second driver. We talked about him not being in a winning car. And here we go.
They looked McLaren looked good this weekend. They looked very, very good.
Very good. That was a
Very
winning
good.
car.
That was a winning car, and they brought 10 different upgrades to Lando's car. I think they brought half of them to Piastri's car this weekend.
Yeah.
Um, they seemed to work. Everything seemed to be clicking. It didn't
Yeah.
look great in that first practice,
No.
and with all the additions and upgrades, there's going to be some tweaking. They seem to
Mhm.
figure it out, because he was never really out of a race. They put him on a good strategy. It wasn't just Lando; it was the whole pit crew.
Yeah.
Um, but once he had some clean air, I don't know if the Red Bull was having some issues,
Yes.
but Lando looked quick.
Yeah. He did. I mean,
Yeah,
both and again, just jumping ahead to the race, before Oscar's issues, he was gaining. Like,
yeah,
Oscar was
yeah,
gunning for a
yeah.
podium. I it wouldn't have been first, but, I mean, he was gunning at one point.
If you're
So
not first, you're last. So,
yeah, it's true. Um, let's jump in right into free practice. Not it was on Friday, uh, just one session because we had a sprint.
yeah, yeah. So not a lot of practice on a dirty. I mean, semi dirty track. We had
Yeah.
F1 Academy this weekend, so helped clean up that
We
track a
had
little bit,
we
but
had the Porsche race as well.
was there a Porsche track? I missed that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
something like that. Um, it was just F1 Academy, the Porsche, and then yeah.
Yeah,
So
but not a lot. I mean, for Miami, for a tarmac that's, I mean, fairly new. It's the 3rd year, but
yeah,
um, not a lot of practice time for a very hot environment, um, and tons of tire degradation. So there
yeah,
wasn't a lot of information going into right into let's
yeah,
give it full tilt here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, the only not the only funny thing, but it was kind of funny was Leclerc and his Austin Powers
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
100-point turn
Was that
of
was the free
free
practice, was it?
practice.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
and they
was free
had a red
practice, yeah.
flag.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, he's going through I think it's turn, was it 17 near the end or something?
16, 17, yeah.
Something like that, yeah, where it's a really tight turn and he loses it. He's lucky. He's lucky he didn't lose his whole back end right against that wall. Um, and does a complete 180 facing the other
Yeah.
way. And then he's got to back up and go forward and back up, and then he has to let somebody else. 'Cause I don't actually think he was letting anybody in. I think
No,
he
they were
started
going
going
around.
forward, and Lewis is like, "Fuck it, I'm going."
Yeah.
And he just went, and then he had to let a whole train of people through, and his
Yeah.
car wouldn't start anymore, and
Yeah.
just red flagged the session. So
Yeah.
I blame Lewis.
Blame Lewis.
He was
Just
the first one to go through.
10-second penalty
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
Lewis. I mean, that was the most notable thing from
Well, yeah,
free
there was nothing
practice. It was
else
just
really.
one quick
Yeah.
practice, so and then we jump right into sprint qualifying, which was
Yeah, quick 4-hour turnaround right into it.
yeah, um, just a lot of people coming very close to one another, Oscar and Botas, and Oscar's so calm on a radio, no matter what is happening.
Yeah.
He was just like, "If that's not a penalty, I don't know what is." Like,
Yeah.
I almost took you out. And
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like,
I feel like he needs to be a little more aggressive. He needs to be a Sainz or an Alonso or a Lewis, somebody who's gonna get the attention of the stewards. Otherwise,
yeah,
it's like, yeah, it doesn't sound that bad. It can't be. It couldn't have been
yeah,
that bad. He seemed fine.
that's just
Yeah,
what he
yeah,
meant. That's
yeah,
just what he
yeah.
meant."
Or George in the middle of the track just yelling, "Red flag, red flag, red flag." Just get the attention of somebody.
Just screaming. What else did we have? We had the Mercedes, both of them, 0 pace.
Nothing.
11th and
Nothing.
12th. 12th for Lewis. We had George
Yeah.
in P11. We had the shocker of all shockers, Daniel Ricciardo in 4th, starting for
Yeah, and
the
if you
sprint.
watched our Instagram, you saw how shocked we were. There was too much going on. I mean, we had Hulkenberg in 10th, which I mean we've seen,
Yeah,
but I expected Norris to be a little bit higher as well. I didn't expect
yeah,
him to be um, in 9th,
no,
but to have, well, one Ricardo in 4th and Yuki in 15th.
yeah,
Where what happened?
no.
Yeah, that was a shocker.
I mean, Daniel needed it. He absolutely needed to be in
100% he
4th.
needed that.
He was smiling as if he had already won and, like, came P1.
Well,
But
I think that's his first decent result of
yeah,
the last
in a long
year and a
time.
half,
Yeah,
or year. Yeah, so, I mean, and really, it's the only thing he really had to smile about the week for the weekend.
yeah,
But, yeah, no,
sure.
coming in 4th and then going into the sprint, I mean, finishing 4th.
Yeah,
To hold on to it in an RB, not a bad result.
no, and I
I mean,
mean, he had people coming up behind him. He had, Perez fighting him. He had
yeah,
Carlos fighting
yeah,
him. So, what like, the one notable or thing with the Red Bulls, but the Red Bulls, I mean Max, uh, in the
of
sprint
course.
qualifying, gets pole, complaining the entire, sprint qualifying,
Yeah,
gets pole, gets to his position on the grid, the sprint is over, or sprint qualifying is over, and he's on the radio just cussing, saying the car is terrible.
yeah,
I don't know how we did it. he'll take it, but the car is terrible. I don't know how everybody else did, but
Well, yeah, well, that's the other yeah, I mean, he did no, was that no, that was regular qualifying, wasn't it?
Uh,
No, because
no, it was sprint. It was a
that
sprint
was sprint
qualifying.
qualifying, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because he said, "Yeah, that was terrible. What happened to everybody else?"
Yeah.
Like, so basically, he's just saying that I was
If I
so
was
proud
shit.
that everybody else had a terrible and they did, they weren't
Yeah,
as good as they were.
yeah.
I mean, they were, improved, but not by much. I mean,
No.
even Max was I mean, he improved his time from SQ1 to SQ2 by about 400ths of a second, so and he almost lost the back end
Yeah,
in that chicane there, where
yeah.
he took out the bollard in the race.
Right. So,
Yeah,
I mean, well, it was
but
typical Max though,
we
right?
know
Like
yeah, we know Max is gonna complain about something. He has to complain about something. He
yeah.
can never leave his engineers or his mechanics in a comfortable position.
No.
He's going to complain because
He
his
needs them stressed.
yeah, his foot twitched a second,
Yeah.
so it must be something wrong with the clutch. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah, it's true.
but he's
He
never not complained, whether it's his engine, whether it's his tires, whether he's losing
yeah.
his back end, whether it's the wind on that day, he is complaining.
Even stuff out of everybody's control,
Yeah,
he's gonna complain.
and then if he wins, it's just, "Yeah, it was decent race,
Yeah, it was
got the
good.
job done."
Thanks, everybody.
It's so Dutch. It's a
Yeah,
very Dutch way of
yeah.
just living life. It's just, yeah,
It's just yeah,
it happened, yeah,
it's cool. It's
okay,
cool.
yeah,
Well, here's
yeah,
another one.
yeah,
Uh, so then we have the sprint.
yeah.
So we fast forward to Saturday now.
Saturday
Um,
afternoon, yeah. Saturday early afternoon.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because then it's qualifying after.
yeah. These sprints are messing us up.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're getting ready for the formation lap. Across the screen, the cars are just getting ready to, the teams have the blankets on the car tires still, and we get the notice 10-second penalty for Ocon. Race hasn't even started.
No, you saw it. I was
Yeah,
in the car at that time. I
yeah.
hadn't gotten home yet. I what was that for?
He came out of his garage
Oh, that's right.
into Charles,
Yes.
and he was given the signal to stop
And he
by
just
his
oh, okay, I
crew,
didn't see
and he
that part. It
didn't.
was an unsafe release.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay.
And but I mean, like, his crew said stop, so,
Yeah, yeah.
like, he's just unsafe.
But he is Prince
So,
Ocon, so he just does whatever
this is
the hell he
exactly.
wants. I mean, his investors were there. Mahomes was in the paddock. He's gotta,
Yeah,
gotta be gotta show off for the investors.
he's just showing off to, make sure they see him,
Yeah, yeah.
keep him instead.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so he gets a 10-second penalty, and then we that's how we start, which is, typical Ocon, just getting
Yeah.
penalties
And
for
it's not
any
like
and
it ruined
everything.
his race or anything. I mean, he did end up in 15th, where he would have been probably in, like, a 7th
Probably.
because he didn't serve the penalty. It's 19 laps.
I think he did in a weird
Did he serve the
way.
penalty?
Yes, because there was a safety car, and he got to serve it.
There
Yeah,
was a safety
so he
car.
got to serve
There
it
was a safety
under
because
the
there was a
safety car.
ton of penalties that
Yep, and
yes,
then it
that's right.
and then it came
There
so
was a lot that went on
so
this weekend.
it was a busy weekend. So we have the
That's
lap
even
1,
worse. But that's even worse.
and then you still come
He's still
15th.
15th. He's still 15th.
Yeah, it's a mess. But lap 1, Lando's clipped by Fernando, Lance, and Lewis. Now, who do you think is at fault in that scenario?
I'm going to go Lewis. Now, if I remember correctly, Lando's in the middle, Alonso's on the outside, correct? Yes.
No.
No, oh no, sorry. Alonso was in
Land
the middle.
yeah.
Alonso was in the middle. Lance was yes. Lando was on the outside, and
Lando was in his own world, minding his own
yeah, no,
business.
he was going around the outside
Yeah,
of Alonso. They had given each other enough space. Um, Alonso's running out of room.
yeah.
He's probably I would say half a meter from the designated corner, like the actual white line.
Yeah.
And Lewis makes a late lunch, right? So Alonso gets squeezed. He's got no choice. He's got nowhere to
Just
go. He can't do
everybody.
anything.
No.
Yeah. And then that's just that ricochet off of Lewis into Lando, and Lando's the one who suffers for it,
Yeah.
right? I
Lando
mean,
and Lance both get out,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yes, yeah,
Um,
yeah. For me, that is a penalty on Lewis, which he did not get a penalty, and
no.
Alonso
Which started
was
the drama.
very yeah, he was the first one to say on his post-race interview, that he probably didn't get a penalty because he's not Spanish,
Mhm.
and he is going to have a conversation with the FAA about nationality bias,
Yeah,
which I don't necessarily think that it's a nationality bias thing. I think it's more of a Lewis bias thing.
I would agree.
However,
However,
I could see the point he's making.
yeah.
I
And then if you cut to Sunday race when Carlos is begging for the penalty against
Oscar.
Oscar,
Yeah.
screaming basically on the
Fresh in my mind though, I don't agree with Carlos in that one.
no, and nobody agrees with Carlos. I think
No. I
he
think
felt it, but it
I
just
think
wasn't.
I think that the non-call on, and we'll get into it, but the non-call on Oscar was correct,
Yeah.
and the penalty on Carlos could have gone either way.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but we'll get into that. We're
But
still
Fernando's gonna use it.
Oh, 100%,
He's gonna say the
100%. Yeah,
the 2
yeah, yeah,
Spaniards are the ones that get penalties.
absolutely, and he should.
Uh,
He should. He's gonna make his point.
oh,
Absolutely.
he's
But yeah, that should have been 100% a penalty on Lewis, and it wasn't. I don't know how it
yeah,
didn't get called
yeah,
on Lewis. Um, but yeah,
yeah. Uh, another we had the safety car to get
yeah,
Ocon got his 10 seconds. We have another restart. Max does what Max does. He's just so good at a restart.
yeah. Oh,
Takes off.
he was a second and a half ahead of Charles probably by the end of the first lap.
Yeah,
I don't know. He was a second ahead going into like the third turn.
yeah.
Like he
That
was out
is
of DRS range. There was not going to happen, and he was gone.
yeah, it was just he's so good
Something
at
about the
those.
way he backs up a pack and he's ready to go in an area where nobody's ready to go.
No.
Like he's got I'm assuming he's got a camera in his or TV screen in his car where
Yeah.
he's looking at the onboard of the person behind him, waiting to check when they're checking their mirrors, he's like, "Okay, now it's time to go."
Yeah,
When they're
like,
not looking, and I'm gone.
every single time.
I
He's just so good at it. I don't
yeah,
know what to say.
I've never
Uh,
seen anybody like it.
yeah. We have the Perez, Ricardo, and Carlos train of fighting each other. They're all in DRS at one point.
Yeah,
Ricardo stressing the hell out of Carlos.
yeah,
Carlos could not get him. Ricardo, the first real good defending that we've seen of him in a long time. I
yeah,
mean, sorry, he's been defending, but defending higher up, and he's
yes, yes.
fighting cars that are clearly faster than him.
Yeah, yeah. Just
So
putting the car in a good position, and
yeah,
I think that also plays into what we talked about not last week, 2 weeks ago. Um, Signs seems a little bit off. He seemed a little bit off last
yeah,
race. Seemed a little off this race.
yeah,
I think it's a little bit of frustration.
yeah,
Maybe it's a little bit of stress thinking about where he's. I don't think it's stress where he's going because he can go where the hell he wants.
yeah,
Um, but a little bit. Just being on the being on the back foot again in the team a
yeah,
little bit, and trying to push a little too hard where it's not. And you saw it in the race too, where he's taking a little too many risks.
yeah,
Right, he's not really running a a safe race, not necessarily safe, but um, he's just pushing those limits a little too far.
yeah. Definitely, what's happening. He does seem a little like on the track when on their social media stuff and the interviews. Like he seems kind of cool and collected, but on track, there's something. Even the complaining.
Yeah,
for him is not
he's not
normal.
himself. This
Not
this this weekend, even after Lando won, he said, "Congratulations to Lando, but, if our pit stop came a lap earlier, I coulda won."
yeah.
S
Just
You
very
didn't,
bizarre.
but yeah,
Very
it
bizarre.
sounds very out of character for him.
Yeah. And then we have basically what is the rest of the the rest of the, sprint. Max won. We can say
Yeah,
that and be done with it. But we have the rest of the sprint, which is basically Kevin Magnussen versus Lewis Hamilton. It's the
being
only thing
a
you needed to be watching.
well, being against Lewis Hamilton and the rest of the pack because he just backed everybody up.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, they had great fighting. The 2 of them racing each other. Lew
was it great?
I
Was
mean,
was it?
Kevin was
I mean, yes.
frustrating the hell
But
out
it's
of
like, yeah, he was because he was playing bumper cars. Like, I don't care. I'm going everywhere on this track. You're not getting ahead of me,
yeah.
and I don't. 10-second penalty. Great, my race is done. I'm just gonna f everybody else up.
Yeah. But, I mean, even with that, there was times that Lewis really couldn't catch him.
No,
So,
no,
like, he's not gaining enough speed with the DRS. It's just showing and, Lewis had come on the radios a couple of times saying, "I don't have the speed. I don't have the pace. I can't
yeah,
get there." And when you're saying that in a Mercedes that you can't catch a Haas, the Haas of Kevin Magnussen,
yeah.
who
The
is
worst of the two Haas.
yeah. So it's just very interesting to see that from one Lewis to a Mercedes, but Kevin Magnussen just
For the second
absolutely
time this year, just being a Dennis the Menace.
like
Honestly,
insane. By
yeah.
the end of the race, he had 35 seconds worth of penalties.
After the first 10 seconds, he just didn't care anymore. He just
Didn't
did
care.
like, yeah, my race is done, honestly.
Yeah.
He's not gonna outweigh that 10-second penalty in a 19 at that point, he was probably
No.
halfway through at that point. So he had probably
Yeah.
another 7 or 8 laps left.
No.
Um, so
It's
what's the point?
pushing Nico up.
Yeah.
He's getting his gap.
And then gets to the interview and they ask him about it and he says, "Yeah, they're justified. What was I gonna do?
Yeah.
Sucks for me, but I helped my team get points." Okay. So he
YOLO.
spent a whole afternoon in in the steward's office explaining himself, and then had to then they did all those penalties, whatever. Um, they were deciding on whether he was going to have some kind of unsportsmanlike disciplinary action for how he conducted himself in that sprint,
Mhm.
which I want to bring to you. So, Andrea Stella in McLaren had
My
complaints
my
about it.
my team principal.
Your team principal, yes, sorry. Um,
Who just won, by the
he
way.
did, he did, he did. But okay, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Was complaining about it. Okay, where does this go? If you're going to give somebody a penalty, where do you draw the line? Now, we see this in every other sport, okay?
Yeah.
Hockey has an unsportsmanlike penalty, right? Football has an unsportsmanlike conduct.
Mhm.
Basketball, if you're being an unsportsmanlike player, you'll get fouls or fouled out or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And baseball, similar situation. They don't have penalties, but you run the risk of being kicked out of the game,
Yeah.
right? For having some kind of unsportsmanlike infringement.
Yeah.
So where does F1 go as you know, you would look at it as a gentlemanly sport, right?
Supposed
Where
to be.
it's supposed to be, not from anything we've seen in the last several
No.
years. But, but where do you go from this? Like, what's the line between strategy and sportsmanship?
I I do agree with Andrea in the sense that even if that's what you were doing, which we all saw, that's what he was doing. He was just
Yeah,
trying to ruin
and he admitted
everybody's
it.
race, and I think the nail in the coffin is the admitting it. Like,
Yeah.
and not giving any fucks about it too.
So
Just being like, "Yeah,
Andrea's
that's what I did."
Andrea's solution is if you're going to do that and knowingly do that, maybe you need to sit home next weekend.
Yeah,
Maybe you need to be suspended for a weekend,
you get a race off. And maybe
right?
he did, maybe he needed to cool off. But, I
He
mean
seemed he seemed cool as hell. He didn't care. He's I'm almost certain now that he has or they both have a clause in their contract that as long as you're helping to get points, you're getting a bonus. Because it's the second time that he was absolutely fine with just
Yeah,
ruining a race
just
for
ruining everybody
points.
else for points.
Yeah.
Um, I agree. I think in other sports, we even see that if they do stuff off the court, off the ice, off the field,
Yeah.
they can get like a
Yeah.
ban from. So I think there is something to be investigated here.
And it was on Sunday, but I
Yeah,
didn't see anything come out of it.
I haven't seen
But I
anything
don't know
yet.
if they're still ongoing.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
I think, we even see, and I don't know if you saw it, in the cool down room, Charles starts to say something about Kevin was, and he
yeah.
realizes the cameras are on, and he stops himself.
Yeah, but that's their media trading that's going
Oh,
on.
yeah.
That's
But, I mean, I think even for the drivers, you don't want somebody that's playing bumper cars,
no,
like,
it's
'cause
dangerous.
it's
It's dangerous
absolutely dangerous.
because you can do
Uh,
whatever you want, but if the person behind you doesn't react properly,
yeah,
somebody's in an accident, and if you
yeah.
backed up the pack enough, then somebody's coming back to that person, and it's gonna
Multiple
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
So, I think it can be dangerous. Was it entertaining a little bit this weekend? It was, but
Oh,
it
it's
was
always entertaining.
it's entertaining because there were no accidents.
It's literally Mad Max, Mad Mags on
Mad Max, yeah, honestly. But, yeah, we'll see. I
and
mean,
that's
right
not
at
all we saw from him.
no,
It's
we
not
didn't.
all we saw
We
from
did that wasn't it.
He
We're
doubled down. He did it all in the sprint and then got into the race weekend, even after he knew he was being investigated further and doubled down.
yeah, but
And
wait,
he
there's
got actually
more.
got like 2 penalties, I think.
Yeah,
2
he did.
separate penalties. So
That's a whole lap of penalties that
oh
he
my
got.
god. I mean, he is the new Ocon,
Yeah, honestly, but I mean, he
but
actually
Ocon
deserves a
is still
lot.
Ocon,
Yeah,
yeah.
he deserves a lot of these. So in the sprint, as everybody might remember, points only go up to 8th place. Lewis
Yeah.
was able to finally catch Kevin Magnussen, get that 8th spot,
Yeah.
and then after the
Yeah,
race,
insult to injury.
he gets a 20-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane under the safety car that was like, 10 laps earlier.
They were on it though this weekend because
Yeah.
even, Stroll got one in FP1 or sprint qualifying,
Yes. Yeah.
for going 3.8 kilometers over. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you get stuck behind this guy. You finally get through him because he doesn't
Yeah.
care about his penalty, so he's not letting you through anyways. And then you get a penalty, and you're behind him.
Yeah. And
Like,
then Yuki gets a point.
and yeah, and then Yuki gets a point.
Yuki gets
Yeah,
a
yeah.
point.
As long as
So,
Yuki benefits, I'm okay with it.
yeah. So, I mean, I think to your point, there were so many penalties this weekend. The
Yeah,
pit lane was a disaster this weekend. Everybody was unsafe release.
yeah.
Everybody was speeding. Like
Nobody cared. It was
nobody cared.
so odd to see.
Yeah, Lando running across the track, a live track. Like just
Yeah, I think that was just kinda I think he just was
he was
so
right
upset,
there.
and he
Yeah,
was just, "You know what? Like, I can't." But t 50,000 $50,000
fine.
fine for walking across the track. I get it, I get it. You're trying to deter people, so that's gonna stop people from doing it, but, I mean,
Who pays that, McLaren or
no,
Lando?
I know if he gets a fine, he has to pay it.
Hmm.
I th Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. I'm just
Well,
going off of my health and safety training. If you get a fine from the MOL personally, you
Yeah,
have to get you it's a personal fine the company legally cannot pay for you. So I would assume it's
gotcha.
the same thing. If you get a personal fine, you can't the company's not gonna pay it for you.
Are you
Or
applying
if it
to be F1 health and safety?
yes, please.
Yeah.
It's just all my bias against penalties aside.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, give
yeah.
me a job, no problem. I'll do it. I'll gladly give Kevin Magnussen fines. Uh,
Ocon? No?
oh, I think I've shown my bias too much on this
Yeah,
podcast. I think
like
I've
they'd be like, no, no, no."
yeah,
But What else do we have? We have Nico qualifying for the race in ninth. I think I'm becoming a Nico Hulkenberg fan.
Yeah, I
You've
mean,
been saying this, but
I didn't think he was gonna like ninth,
ninth.
ninth. He's moving up.
Yes.
He's normally
Like,
in 10th, and Yuki in 10th, which I was glad to see.
yeah.
Um, but ninth, ahead of the Aston Martin of Stroll,
Yeah.
which I'm still happy to see, but surprised to see. Um, and
Yeah.
Alonso was out in 15th in qualifying. Um,
Yeah.
Ricardo had an absolutely terrible qualifying. For as good as a sprint he had, everything else just went out the window, and he just forgot
Yeah.
how to drive.
It just
Um,
went
yeah, it
downhill.
was terrible.
Went downhill.
He was a non-factor the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Alonso out Stroll the first time ever. I think he was out qualified. Or he out qualified Alonso
Yes.
without Alonso being DNF'd or knocked out,
Yeah.
which was very surprising. But allowed you Sonoda to get into 10th.
I
So
mean, pluses and minuses, right?
yeah, yeah,
I mean, the only other thing, Max takes pole, but it is his sixth pole in 6 races to start
breaking the
and
record.
breaking another record
Yeah, because it
as
was he tied it with Nigel Mansell
Mhm.
for the 5 and 5. But yeah, so now he's the only person with 6 poles in 6 straight Grand Prix to start the season.
To start the season,
To
yeah.
start the season, yes,
So,
not 6 straight.
yeah.
But I did see something where the person who always took pole in the last 3, including this one, Miami Grand Prix, has always come in second. One was Leclerc, another one was Perez, and now it's Max.
Oh,
So maybe
interesting.
pole isn't
So
the
you
best place
don't
to be.
want
No, you
Paul
don't want pole.
in Miami at least. Um,
Depends what you're in Miami for.
well, oh my god.
This is why I click not for children on YouTube.
Not for children. You think that's where Lando went last night?
Oh,
No.
100%.
No.
What,
He
into Miami? Partying?
he didn't go to a women's club.
Oh, no, I don't think he was what? I mean, if he can bring the party to your hotel room,
True,
he's
true.
got the money for it. I mean, Zach did tell him, "Make sure you're just on the flight." Didn't say what
Yeah.
state he had to be in.
Yeah, just make sure you're there. You kidding? Zach is the one that ordered her never mind.
Zach
No.
I wouldn't be surprised. Zach was there. Zach
Yeah.
was there, and Zach doesn't remember being there.
No, for sure.
Zach got another tattoo, and it's right on
He
his
said he
ass,
would.
probably.
He said he would they asked him if he'd get another tattoo. He said, "Yeah, I do Miami."
Yeah, yeah,
So,
he's getting it. He got it. He just doesn't remember it.
yeah,
It's gonna be
doesn't
somewhere.
know yet. Doesn't know yet.
He's gonna be
But
showering. It's gonna hurt. Um,
so then we have Sunday, yesterday.
yeah.
I mean, it didn't start out looking like it was Lando's day, but
No, Max got away really well.
it quickly became Lando's day. But, uh,
Almost didn't get away well.
almost.
That was
It just
the most ass-clenching first turn I've ever watched in my life.
like, I
W
it didn't when you watch it live, or, like, when you watch the first, like, go through of it, it didn't look like he was as close to Max as he really was. When they
Oh, I
slowed it
saw it.
down,
No, I saw how close
like
he was. I was putting in a piece of lamb for my Greek Easter. I'm not Greek, but I was putting and I almost choked. I thought 4 people were out of that
and
race.
the top 4.
I
Yeah,
couldn't believe it.
yeah, it would have seemed
How he thread a needle between 3 cars, I have no
yeah.
idea.
Did you hear, Carlos's radio? He's like, "What was that?"
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
like,
like,
what the hell?
it just
Well, because it's like those memes of a video game you see, where all of a
yeah,
sudden you're running a good race and a car literally comes flying through everybody. They
yeah,
forget everything else, they're just literally trying to ruin everybody's race,
yeah.
and he wasn't,
He wasn't, I just
and
locked up.
somehow still stayed in 6th, 5th? something like that
Something
after the
like
first
that.
turn?
Yeah.
Somehow?
Uh, don't know.
I don't know.
Don't know how that happened. Uh, Hulk also took 2 spots in the first lap,
Yep.
including taking over Lewis. Again,
Yep.
like,
A lot of
those
that has to do with the kerfuffle that was
yeah,
going on, everybody
yeah,
stopping and moving
yeah.
and but yeah. Yeah, no, he got up there pretty quick.
I
I mean,
think
he
Lewis
needed to.
yeah, but Lewis was really struggling with the Haas's this weekend.
Yeah, he was stuck
Uh,
behind Nico for a little bit too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I posted it on our Instagram as well, but Crofty probably spoke for, like, 4 minutes straight. Like,
Oh,
he
straight.
could not take a break. Those so much was happening at the front, in the middle, at the back, like, there was just so much going on that he I mean, the race starts to, peter out after the first, 2 laps. People start to
Yeah,
spread out, but that wasn't happening.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, there other than a
so
couple of decent battles, there wasn't really much that happened from lap 3 to lap I would guess probably 17 once people started excuse me,
moving
uh,
around.
started, like, pit stops,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We had on speaking of Checo though, we did there was he was noted for that possible false start. I never saw anything about it
Nothing
after.
happened, nothing came out of it. Not that I
So,
noticed.
no,
He was never given a time penalty, so
no.
I figured that I guess they figured that after he screwed himself up after that first turn, like, "Yeah, you're fine. There's your 5 seconds."
Yeah. There's you're good.
Yeah.
Um, Signs begging on the Ferrari radio to switch with Carl, which
Fairly early, yeah, that was, like, lap 5 or 7.
yeah.
Like, "I have more pace. What are we doing here?"
Like, we just started, guys.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just slow down. Uh, I
Like,
think
what would make you think that you're gonna have a switch in lap 7 with a whole bunch of people behind you, so you're gonna ruin your other guy's race for what?
and they were what, like 3rd and
Yeah,
4th or
yeah.
4th and 5th at the time, like, it just didn't make sense at the
I
time.
think they're 3rd and
I
4th,
think it was 3rd and 4th.
and you're not on the team next year. So, no, we're
So,
not
no.
no, that's
Uh,
going to be a
and
no,
then
Scott.
I wanna say, I mean, it's been a while since we know Ferrari strategists are not the greatest at
They've
times.
been
They've
better.
been great, they've been
They've
very good
yeah.
recently
I just
because
I can't do the alphabet. I can't hear it anymore. Are we gonna
no,
do A? And they ask the drivers,
they
what
asked
about
the
A? What
drivers,
about
"What do you
D? What
think?"
about C? What
Yeah,
about X, Y, and Z? Like, shut up. Just tell
yeah,
them what they're doing.
what they need to do. However, we had the possibly the dumbest Ferrari dummy call,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah,
box,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
radio came on
yeah.
to Charles and said, "Box opposite of what McLaren does." They sent the the pit crew out to dummy McLaren into the pit to change their tires, but both cars were already past the pit
Yeah,
lane.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And
it was
McLaren's got their
just
strategy. They had their
yeah.
strategy. They didn't deviate from their strategy all race.
Right.
So they're not worried. They're not gonna be, you're not gonna dummy them into something they don't wanna do and ruin their race. They don't care. They're gonna run their car. They
No.
know that they are probably pretty equal to you at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Well, and I think I mean, we one of McLaren's, strategies was hoping and praying for a safety
Yeah,
car,
yeah.
which is a very risky
But you see that. I mean, you
but
see
you
that
see it, a lot of teams do it,
you
of
know
course.
that when you have a street track, 1, you're probably gonna have a safety car.
Yeah,
2, you're looking at the history of the track, and there have been safety cars in both races that they've
yeah,
had
yeah.
McLaren,
My
in Miami.
Miami.
It's really where do you feel that this safety car is gonna come in? And
Yeah,
if you have a history of something happening in the first 30 laps, you're planning for that. Okay, great. If not, you're still taking your pit stop just like everybody else has,
yeah.
and you're gonna run your race.
Yeah, and I mean, they did you could hear them talking in the beginning. They were talking a lot to Oscar, asking him, "Hey, if we pit you, you're gonna come out behind the Mercedes. Can you, weave yourself back up there?" And Oscar at the time was saying no. He says, "I don't think I could do it."
I
But
don't know how. I don't know how.
If
I
you
know
can't
it's
get
not a
past the
I
Mercedes.
I know it's not a huge overtaking track, but if you've got DRS and you're McLaren, you should.
They were fast. Uh, we've got the Red Bull and Ferrari matching pit stop times for Checo and Charles, 1.9
Yeah, they
second
were
pit stops. And I mean, Red Bull, we know that they can do it. Ferrari, very shocked, 1.9. Awesome. Like,
yeah, yeah.
well
No
done.
no no wheel issues. No
No.
somebody did have oh, no, that was McLaren. McLaren did have like a 3
Yeah.
something. Russell had it.
Uh, yeah.
Russell had one, yeah.
Ferrari had a 3.1 as well for Carlos later on.
But again, he's not on the team next year, so it's fine.
They're like, "Do, do, do, do,
Those don't
do."
count. Those are practices.
Yeah. Then we have Max hit the cone, the bollard,
Yep. Yeah,
and
in the
carried it.
chicane at 13, 14, I think it is.
Yeah,
He just goes over it, and then
yeah.
s- and I don't want to say it because I've seen some recent. I think it was Will Buxton at the end of the race asked him what happened there with that, and I don't want to besmirch Will because I've seen some interviews with him, and he's actually a pretty cool guy, regardless of what Drive to Survive makes it
I
seem like.
like him.
But when you say, what happened there, Max gives a stupid answer for a stupid question. He's like, well, I just didn't like it there, so I want to take it out and test the durability of my car. Well, obviously he lost the car and he went straight through. What
Yeah.
do you mean what happened there? He took a little too much curb in the first part of the chicane. Is that
You
a question you really have to ask? Like, what
yeah,
happened there? Do you have no other questions for Max
right? Like,
other than that? In a race where you probably actually have questions for him.
because he came second.
Yeah, yeah.
He
Like, what
came
happened with
second.
the car? Forget the
Yeah.
bollard.
Yeah, exactly.
What
Um, I mean, it landed so he carried it for a little bit, then it flew off of his
quite a bit,
car.
actually.
Yeah. Landed in the middle of the track, all the
Yeah,
drivers complaining. We get the virtual safety car.
virtual, yeah.
Um, nobody's really close to the pit lanes
We
to
had I think it was only one pit
yeah.
stop.
None of the leading cars,
No,
sorry.
no, somebody in the back. Was it Bottas?
Ocon, or I think it was like
Ocon, yeah,
Ocon or
yeah, yeah.
Gasly, one of them went
We only
in.
had one,
Yeah.
I think.
And this is kind of where they also have Zach, speaking to Crofty and Martin Brundle,
Mhm.
and he says they ask him like, how are you guys going to push? You're in a good spot right now,
Yeah.
but how do you push more? And Zach says right there, and again, was this just being smart, not showing their hand? He admitted that both drivers were flat out. He said both of them are flat out right now, just unable to
Yep.
fight Max unless something happens. He has an
Yeah.
issue.
They asked the can they take the fight to Red Bull, and he said, "Probably not."
He said no.
Yeah, yeah.
So, uh, then we have
Well,
Lewis
shit,
complaining.
everybody in F1 is nothing but honest. I mean,
They really are.
especially
Too
this weekend.
too honest.
Yeah.
Lewis complaining that he can't see the chicane because Max took out the bollard.
After
Uh,
30 something laps.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I just again, Martin Brundle with a hilarious
the
comeback after
best.
hearing the radio.
Yeah.
Well, the track doesn't change.
Lap to lap.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's like,
He followed it up with like, "Yeah, I get it. It's hard to kinda see it when you're sitting low."
yeah.
But, I mean, these guys do these tracks with their eyes closed. So you know the chicane's coming.
They do these tracks with, like, just the sound of the car, just
Yeah,
the
yeah,
engine
yeah,
revving,
yeah,
like,
yeah, and you've done
so
simulation after simulation. You know
yeah,
turn 1, turn 3, you know where it's a left-hander or a right-hander, you
yeah.
know the chicane's coming, the hairpins, the DRS. So, you know it's coming up, and as long as you hit that first part of the chicane, you know there's a second part.
There's
So,
also a bridge there, so
yeah,
y
it's
once
it's
you
not
see the bridge,
it's
just
not yeah, it's not like it's not visible.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love how we're like, "Oh, just do it, just do the chicane," like
Yeah, yeah, we would just be into the wall in turn
yeah,
1.
yeah.
Um,
We'd be one
but
taking Max out,
but that's why
um,
we're in these seats and not those.
yes, this is true. Uh, then we have where the race takes a turn.
Yeah,
We
just
get
complete this is
we
where
get
the
the safety car
yeah,
that McLaren has been begging for, hoping for. Lap 29, Logan and Kevin connect. Logan is out.
Kevin just
Back on his bullshit. Like,
trying to make a move in that chicane.
the same one without the ball.
I believe so,
Yeah.
because there's only one.
Yeah.
Trying to make a move on the second part of the chicane, he's got no room. Logan has no idea he's even there. His front tires are just ahead of
Yeah.
Logan's back tires. He's got nowhere to go. He has to
No,
back out.
no.
Those are the sportsmanlike conduct rules. Um,
That's the gentleman's handshake.
and he just said, "You know what? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not give it a shot? Like, who
Yeah.
cares? We're in the back."
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like,
and
"Holt is
and
ahead of me, it's all good."
destroys Logan's race.
Yeah.
Not even his own. He got a new wing, and he was gonna finish 18th or 19th anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just
But, I mean, it
opens the
causes
door.
it opens the door, it causes the safety car, and because of where the safety car comes out, it actually pushes Lando, and you would text me, you're like, "How is Lando 30 seconds
Again,
ahead?"
I'm eating lamb here, and I'm turning on and off this race, and all of a sudden I see Lando, and he's 25, 30 seconds. I'm like,
Yeah.
"What's going on?" Like,
It's
there's a safety car in front of Max, and Lando's ahead by 30 seconds. What the hell is going?
Yeah, and I mean, I kinda said it to you that the safety car picks up Max, which, I mean, he probably was just like, "Oh,
Yeah, Max is in the lead,
this is
yeah.
who I usually
The
have
guy
to
was
pick
eating
up."
his sandwich,
Yeah,
and he just was like, "Okay,
he's
there
like,
comes
"Oh,
Max,
Max,
let's go."
okay."
Yeah, yeah.
So they actually had to let everybody
Get
go
everybody
past the
through, yeah.
safety car so that they could get Lando in, but because he was so far ahead, he could do his pit stop that he
Yep.
had been waiting and waiting
He
for.
did his pit stop and still was 20 seconds ahead.
Yeah. And then everybody gets backed up, and we're going around, they're cleaning up, going around, and we've seen this before, we've seen Max and Lando on a restart.
Yeah.
Maybe not in this order, but we've seen
No.
them both on a restart 1 and 2, and Norris does a good restart, a
I
little
wouldn't
bit
call
earlier than he
I don't
should've.
think so. I mean, Max had him.
He did. He
Max
was
had him.
right there.
He was there and he didn't let him go, and then for some reason, I don't I don't think that that car was really working for Max the
No,
way he wanted it to this weekend,
no.
because after 2 laps, he was Max or Lando was at after actually the first lap, he was already a second ahead.
Yeah,
Um,
1.4 I had, yeah.
yeah, but he had him right at the restart, just couldn't make it work.
No, no, because he knows how to back out of, not going under not just going
Yeah, yeah,
through
yeah,
a car.
yeah,
Um, he and from there, Lando just kept increasing, and he not only was he increasing his distance, he was getting fastest laps at the same time, like,
yeah, yeah,
of a car that, Zach 10 laps earlier had said that they were doing flat out.
yeah,
So,
and that they weren't gonna beat the Red Bulls.
they weren't.
And they should the Red Bulls should have caught them on a straight or whatever.
Yeah.
But it turned out that, even Charles was catching Max
Yeah. So, I mean,
after a few laps.
you could see that the Red Bull wasn't the usual Red Bull.
No,
And we didn't get a lot of radios to hear exactly what was going on in the car. And again, Will Buxton didn't ask what happened in the car. So we don't really still know what
no.
happened to.
We know what happened with the Bollard, but
Yeah, maybe it was that.
maybe it
That's
was.
it. That was it.
Maybe he was still dragging it around.
Yeah. Lap 41, Lando still in front, 3 seconds ahead of Max. At 10 laps to go, he's 5.9 seconds ahead of Max.
Just continually increasing.
Yeah, I mean, it got to the point that, I mean, commentators are supposed to be, they're not supposed to be biased. They don't want, they can't be
Yeah,
cheering, but
everybody.
everybody
I
in
don't thi
F1.
it wasn't the commentators, it was
Yeah,
you, it was me, it was
yeah,
every fan. I mean,
yeah,
you see just like last year, Lando had what, 8? drivers of the day, how much he's
Yeah,
just loved by everybody. It
yeah.
doesn't
Oh,
matter.
yeah.
Nobody
You can
cares.
come 8th and have driver of the
Yeah,
day.
exactly,
Like,
exactly. Everybody was
so
pulling for Lando.
yeah, and I mean, I just thought it was funny that Crofty and Brundle, they were not hiding who they were going for, and I mean,
Oh,
they're
they're
kind of
very superstitious. They're like, "Just
well,
stop
let's
talking.
not talking
Stop
about it.
talking."
Don't say it, don't say it. So, I mean, Oscar was fighting Carlos at the back to the point that they had to or yeah, Carlos, and then he ended up dropping way back, and he was trying to fight his way back up, and they actually McLaren had to get on with Oscar and say, "Lando's in the lead.
Yes,
Calm it
so
down."
they had that fight with, Oscar and Carlos had a fight.
Yeah,
Carlos ended up clipping him,
yep,
damaging his front wing, Oscar's front wing. So he had to get it changed, and he were dropped all the way down to 18th, I believe it was.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was fighting Ricardo, and it
He
was
was
coming pretty close. And it's like, we don't
yeah.
need a safety car 10 laps in, so we're gonna bunch up the pack.
Like, Lando's
Yeah,
winning, so
just stop.
please
You're
please
not
stop.
making points. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
so,
don't
I
care.
mean
11 or 18th doesn't make a difference.
no, at that point, no, it does not. And then we go to the end, and I mean, everybody wanted this. You're messaging
I'm just
me,
you, just keep it on track.
like,
Just keep it
just
on
this
track.
poor kid, like, everything,
Yeah.
just
Drop it
keep
down
it
to
together.
60K and just cruise
Just
it home.
cruise, just
Just cruise
cruise.
it home.
You don't need to do 300 kilometers an hour,
No,
slow down.
no, no.
Max
250
is
is
not
fine.
coming.
250
Like,
is fine.
yeah, no, and but I didn't listen to the onboards, and I should have. I didn't think about it till after, but apparently the onboard of Lando with his pit wall, he was very calm. He was
Yeah.
very like well put together. He just
They were talking
was
about, like,
just
just another
focused.
race.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
focusing on it, and he did it.
Pull it out. Yeah.
He got his first win uh in
After
Formula 1. No,
115?
110. This was his
110, 110th race.
yeah, and
Yeah.
15 podiums. He's that's his record.
That's his
Uh,
right. He still has that record, yeah.
15 15 podiums before his first win. Um,
Most successful unsuccessful driver until
yeah. Yeah. But
until Miami.
yeah, so, I mean, congrats to Lando. McLaren, I think they needed it as a team.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see how much he is loved in the paddock because every single driver, one either put a message out on a social or was
Yeah.
up there just giving him a hug,
Yeah.
passing by him in the parade there at the end, giving him, a high five or a thumbs up or whatever.
Yeah.
Just everybody very happy for
Yeah.
Lando.
Nobody
Yeah.
hugs Max.
I think everybody would be tired if they hugged Max. Um, I don't even
Also,
think actually, I don't think they did it in his first win. So, of
no,
course, it was 110 races, but
no. But I don't know what I was gonna say.
I don't
Totally
know.
lost it. Well, no, I was gonna say it's not even just the drivers, like the commentators. Like
Yeah,
everybody was just so excited for
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Um,
And he did say after the race, talking to Sky Sports, I sent that to you today, I think it
yeah,
was, that Rosberg retired after his first championship. He's going to retire after his first win. So I guess we're
yeah.
not going to see Lando for the rest of the year, or ever
He's
again.
gonna
He's just
take a little
done.
bit of a break. I hope not.
No,
He'll
no.
he'll be back.
He'll be winning again.
And I mean, uh Max was very happy for him. I mean, Max even
Sure,
said, he
they're
said, "If there's
friends.
anybody that I want to come second to, it's Lando. He deserves it."
Way to make Carlos feel like shit for the last 2 wins.
Right? Yeah, I think it was well deserved. It was a race that they got right.
Yeah,
They got everything right,
everything.
even though they didn't think they were gonna get everything right.
Well, it didn't look like that, but I mean,
No.
their strategy was to play into a safety car,
Yeah,
and if they didn't play into a safety car, they would have probably had a podium. Um,
yeah,
but they did, and it worked out for them. I mean, that's the
yeah,
gamble you take, and
yeah,
Lando benefits. So
yeah.
thank God, because I was. crapping my pants
Yeah.
for those last 10 laps.
Yeah. I mean, he got it, and I'm sure he partied. Did you see he did a lie detector test
Yep,
this last week?
just before the race, somewhere in
Just
between
it
that
was
week.
like
Yeah, yeah,
Wednesday or Thursday, he just did
yeah,
this,
with Sky
and
Sports, yeah,
yeah, and the question was, "Do you think you'll win in 2024?" And he said, "Yeah."
yeah. And
So,
he actually said after the race, I think on one of his team ratings, or team raters, or one of the interviews after, said, I walked into this race on Sunday morning thinking this is going to be a good weekend. Things are going to happen. I think
he
it's going to
felt
be
good.
today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he felt
yeah.
good.
I mean, he was good all weekend, other than that Q3. That was just kind of an anomaly. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and then Sky Sports had his dad, who's at home. The one race his dad doesn't go to.
yeah, 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 yeah. That was the first call he made when he was
Yeah.
in the cool down room, was
Yeah,
to his parents.
yeah.
Yeah,
But,
don't cry.
actually, the cool down room, we see Max making his comments. He seems very chill being in 2nd.
He doesn't care.
Like, it was
I mean, he's still in first. He doesn't care, and
by
he's
a
still in the
lot.
fastest car.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, you
yeah.
Max
He's
is a guy who just doesn't give a shit, so
no.
it doesn't matter. When we saw it in all his interviews afterwards, he's very calm and
Yeah,
just making stupid comments.
stupid comments. He's great, though, I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Talking about his
Uh,
mom's balls, but
yeah.
not his
Lando
mom's balls, if
no,
his
I was gonna
mother had
say,
balls.
if his mother had balls. Lando did get driver of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
You
how
have
was
to.
he not going to? If he got
And
driver of the
by,
day,
like
becoming like an 8th, but
and by, like, 47%.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is
And
probably not his highest driver of the day.
probably not.
Percentage still, I don't think it was. I think he had one, like, it was in the wet, and he was, like, 75% or something like that.
Yeah. And, again, funny little stat, Max never gets driver of the day.
No, everybody's sick of it because they expect him to win, so it's like,
Yeah.
he's not driver of the day if you're in the fastest car. They're just
If
like, "Yeah, whatever."
you're not fighting anybody.
And they don't show up on TV
They
usually,
ever.
so
They
what are
yeah,
they gonna vote on?
this is true.
Yeah.
Very true. But and that was it. I mean, I
It
think
was a busy weekend.
busy weekend, I think for sure the best weekend of the
Yeah,
season so far. I
yeah.
mean, the sprint was good, qualifying was interesting, it was a bit of a mix up, and then the race was good, not just because it was somebody else that won. I mean, it was great that Lando won, but
Yeah.
overall there was just good racing.
Just enough drama in it to make it interesting, more interesting, excuse me.
Yeah. Make it more
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
very interested.
yeah.
But, yeah,
Um,
that's Miami.
that was the race.
Yeah.
So one piece of news that, I had sent to you,
Mhm.
which I am not very happy about,
Yeah,
um, that
neither am I.
F1, we talked about it last week. F1 was possibly considering changing the point scoring to the top 12
Yeah.
finishers. Now they're actually further evaluating on whether we give points to the entire grid. So I would assume that as long as you finish, so like Logan wouldn't get 1 point for
Oh
being
my
taken out of the
god.
race. So I'm going to assume it's as long as you finish the race, that they are now going to give out participation points.
Thanks for coming out, 1 point.
Well, I mean, come on. You're telling me that I could drive like shit? I could literally let the whole grid pass me, and as long as I just finish the race, I can get a point?
Kinda lose incentive.
What's like, no pun intended, but what's the point? Like, what's the point of racing if
Yeah,
if you have nothing to race for? If
right.
you're gonna get, okay, maybe another point or a couple other points if you're gonna get up to 16th. But,
No,
Kevin Magnussen can get 30 penalties in a race, finish 18th, and still get 3 points.
and still get
Like,
3 points.
like, come on. It's the stupidest thing
Yeah,
I've heard in sport in my life.
I
I
agree.
I hate it more, and I'm
In
a big
professional sport
in
too.
professional sports.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
life, I don't like participation medals. I don't like it. I don't
No, I don't agree with
I
it.
absolutely effing hate it.
No.
People need to learn how to lose, and if you can't win, you're out. Done.
Mm, it's
I
that
you
simple.
know, I'm a big hockey fan, right? And we have 2 points for a win, 2 points for a win in overtime, 1 point for a loss in overtime. I don't like that. That's stupid. Then make it 3 points for a win,
It
2
should
points for an overtime win, and 1 point. So you have an incentive to win at the front
right.
instead of, "Hey, we could just lose. Maybe that'll get us a couple
Go
points and we'll get in the playoffs or whatever."
yeah.
It's not a hockey diatribe, but it's the same concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It boils my if you can't tell. I'm
Oh,
infuriated
we
by it.
we can we could tell.
Like, what
Um,
is going on with this stupid generation?
I agree, and I don't know where this came from. I can't see the drivers wanting that. I can see the drivers wanting up to 12,
I could see Ocon wanting it, but, like,
but I can't see them wanting the entire grid to get points. It just doesn't make sense. What are you gonna
my
at what
fear
point are
is
they all
that
gonna be 1?
my
Like
fear is that the teams are gonna want it, right? And so the teams are the ones who are gonna the drivers aren't gonna be the ones who are gonna vote on it. It's gonna be the teams that are gonna vote on it.
right.
And if the teams, if that's gonna be a difference between $10 million and $30 million, are they gonna wanna vote on this? Um,
Um, but well, I was gonna say,
because it could very well be,
do
right?
they
You could
change
have
the prize money though? Does that change for, like, where
I
they
don't th
fall?
if they change prize money for that, I definitely don't think it'll go through. But if they don't,
Well,
well,
I mean,
it depends how they change it, if they were to increase it or whatever. But I could see owners and teams voting for this because it could mean, and they'll do their due diligence, and they'll look at the last 10 years of data on
yeah.
how many points they could have under this point system, and they'll vote on it. But, um, yeah,
I
it's
wouldn't be happy if it happened at all.
but how do you go from, last week you're talking about 12 and this week you're talking about 20?
20.
I
20, it doesn't make sense.
No.
It yeah, I don't know.
It's not a participation sport.
No, it's
It's
very
very
much
much you win, you lose, that's it.
I mean, the whole point strategy kinda goes out the window then. Like
They brought in a second driver for a points purpose.
yeah,
They used to always have, like, 1 driver per team.
yeah,
Now they brought in a second driver for points purpose because it was millions of dollars. They didn't change the point, well, they have changed point system over
yeah.
the years, but they would always put in a second driver or whatever because it increased your amount to get points. Doesn't mean you still got points for doing shit. Oh,
No,
but you
no,
shouldn't. You
no, you
shouldn't.
shouldn't.
You
You
shouldn't
shouldn't.
reward that kind of crap, and
No,
it's so upsetting.
you shouldn't just it's a participation trophy, basically,
Yeah,
and
und
it we eliminate that with children, and these are not children, these are grown men, other than Kimmy
but we
Antonelli. But
we don't eliminate that with children anymore, and that's the problem.
well, yeah,
Everybody's used to getting something,
yeah,
and it's
that's
filtering
right.
into, obviously, the F1
Formula
world now.
1. Yeah,
So which they used to all be pricks, and now they're
yeah.
just
Now
they're
they're
still
like,
pricks,
"Please."
but
Works that want points.
yeah. So anyway, so that's my
That's your rant.
I'm still very upset. It's 11 o'clock, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
go to bed very upset.
This
Uh,
this is that's Kevin's rant for the day. Why don't we
oh my god.
let's talk about your fresh set.
Okay, we can talk about my fresh
Your
set.
fresh
I
set.
mean,
Since
oh,
we're
this one is tough. I want to pick an unpopular opinion.
unpopular opinion.
I've picked Yuki before. I've got to go with. I'm going to go with Kevin Magnuson's "I don't give a f" attitude and just be like, yeah, I did it. Just the absolute honesty over it. I don't agree with how he did it because
Yeah,
obviously I don't um, agree with the unsportsmanlike of it.
yeah,
Um, but I do like, uh, you know, just for him to come out and say, "Yeah, I did it. It was deserved.
yeah.
Whatever. Do what you want." I respect that. So that's my
Mm,
fresh set of the day
your
of the
fresh
weekend.
set. Alright.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the obvious I think that we both have would be Lando
Yeah,
winning
yeah.
his first one. But I agree. I think I'm gonna go with something a little bit different. I'm gonna say Daniel's 4th place. No podium
Yeah.
for him in the sprint, but I think it was just, like, it was needed. It's
Mm,
just what he needed. It was probably the right time
yeah.
before we're getting into the
I mean,
summer.
it's not like they show Liam Lawson every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Um,
Before the summer break, I think he's been taken out of a couple races,
yeah.
didn't like, he just needed it. So I think that was good for him, and then, of course, the Lando,
Yeah, yeah, I think
the
that's a
Lando
given.
that's a
Yeah,
given.
yeah.
Um, alright, so your dirty air
My
for the
dirty
week.
air, it's so easy to go for the points news. But since I've already done it.
Yeah.
My dirty air my dirty air, I'm gonna go with the no penalty on Lewis in the sprint.
That's funny that you
Yeah.
say that. Uh,
I'm going with the nationality bias.
yeah, the
The fact that they
nationality
favor
bias.
the Brits,
Yes.
clearly because they gave them a safety car and Lando won. But no, yeah, my Lewis not getting a penalty, which was it's so clearly a penalty.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually too much unlike um, Kevin's penalty in the race.
No, not at all.
Just putting him in this position in an unsafe position and ruining somebody else's race.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it was an easy call to make, and they didn't make it.
Yeah. I
So a
would
dirty air would be on the FIA.
yeah, that
Yeah,
could be easily done.
yeah,
Um, I think for me, and again, just funny you said that was your dirty air. Mine would actually be just the amount of penalties and FIA call outs and stewards and the issues that they had to this
yeah,
weekend. And again, not just with Lewis, not just with Kevin, with everybody.
yeah.
There
Some
was
of them
a lot.
obvious, and some
Yeah.
of them egregious, probably.
Like, it was
Yeah,
just, like, every 2 seconds, the, like, little flag at the top of, like,
yeah.
"This is being
Noted,
reviewed."
investigating,
Noted,
investigated after the race.
and to the stewards.
Yeah, yeah,
So, it was just, like, I can't watch the race and watch everything at the
yeah.
same time, so
No, that's a good
there
one.
was just a lot going on this weekend in general, but penalties and yeah,
Yeah,
reviews, it's a rough one.
yeah, yeah. It was. Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
rough
There's
one.
just too much to go on to pay attention to.
Yeah. Uh,
That's
that's
our
it.
that's it. That's our episode.
That's it.
That's it. It's been an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah,
There was a
that's
lot. We haven't
that's
stopped
a lot.
talking. I'm all dry mouth here.
Yeah,
Um,
that's that's all we've got. So, I mean, we will be back next
next
weekend.
week,
No race,
no race. We
but
will
we'll
have
be back with something.
we will have something for you. Absolutely.
Something.
In the meantime, if you haven't seen it, check out our Instagram. We
Yeah.
did a food. What would you call it? A food segment thing.
Is that
Whatever.
real? A real
Yeah, real, yeah. For this week in Miami, this week we did Cuban sandwiches, which were difficult
Cuban.
to put together.
Very.
It's just
Had to cut some of
we
that
need some
out.
better choices, yeah.
Yeah.
Creative editing. Uh,
Yeah.
and, you had made some fantastic
Mojitos.
mojitos,
Mhm.
um, in honor of the culture in Miami.
Yeah.
So yeah, check that out on our socials at Fresh Set Podcast, not
Yeah.
said.
Fresh
Um,
that on Instagram, follow us, like, and, all that. Send it to your
yeah,
friends.
send it to your friends.
Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music,
Apple
Apple
Podcasts,
Podcasts, X or
X,
Twitter, and we are everywhere. So
yeah,
follow,
at Fresh
like,
Set
subscribe.
Podcast.
Yeah. And we will see you guys next week.
Have a good one. Grab a fresh set. That's what I say.
I was like, come on, Kevin.
I was looking at my mouse cursor here. I got all messed up. It's late.
Got all flustered.
Yeah.
All
So grab a
right.
fresh set.
Bye.